Some people don't understand the concept of daily winning. It is possible because some people don't understand winning as a daily outcome until now. Here at Champions for Life podcast, we give you ways to understand how to reverse your thinking about winning. That yes, you can, and that it is possible to experience daily winning. In small but powerful ways, you will begin to change your life and become the champion for life you have envisioned for yourself. Hi, I'm Jana. You will be listening to JDC, my husband, a father of 6, martial artist, entrepreneur, a servant of Jesus Christ, and a tough love kind of guy who will share with you experience, wisdom, and ways you can overcome any challenge in your life. So get ready to be inspired, encouraged, and motivated to take decisive action.
Okay.
All right. So, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm here with Miss Amber Betchel, one of the parents here at Sovereign, and I'm excited to speak with her today and learn more of why she is and her family, her children, also involved with Sovereign. And it takes a family, right, to
Absolutely.
make it all happen, right? So before you share into that, tell us who you are, what you do, and why you started at Sovereign. How did you find it?
Okay. All right. So I'm Amber Bechtel, and I'm a mother of 3, and I homeschool all 3 of them. Me and my husband own a contracting company, and he recently went back to school to become a nurse. And we had decided Brianna had wanted to start doing something, and we had tried her in gymnastics a while back, and she didn't have the confidence level to do it. She would not want to try things because she'd be too afraid if someone would make fun of her for it if she got it wrong. But she really wanted to do something else, especially with being homeschooled. It was important for us to have her involved in another community where she had exposure to kids her age, and she got this socializing aspect of it. Where my youngest is in ballet, and my son, we had actually hoped to get him involved in sports this year, but with the COVID-19 pandemic, we were not able to, which Sovereign really kind of closed that gap for us because he was able to do the karate with her as well and get connected there, which was helpful. I mean, they socialize through church and in the neighborhood, but it's just different when they're involved in an association. So we had looked at a few of the other schools in the area, but they just weren't what we wanted. They didn't have the values that we wanted, and to me, they weren't going to be learning anything other than kicking and screaming. It wasn't like it wasn't the disciplines that they get at Sovereign. So actually, you guys were literally the last school we were going to look at. And we walked in, and it was just, I mean, and it was just that connection that instantly. And I loved it, and she loved it. And I went home and I talked to my husband about it, and we just felt like, especially with our Christian values and our Christian beliefs, it's really hard to find another place that lines up with that in today's society. So being able to find a place where I know that I can trust what is being fed to her is really important to us. So that's pretty much how we wound up with you guys.
That is so exciting to hear you say that, because even in the secular world, you got all these different coaches and all of that. And I look at life with the half truth, right? Everything, every lie is off of a truth,
Yeah.
And that's not new. That's old. The enemy has known that forever, right? And in the secular world, you have a lot of people mentioning, if you get a coach, make sure you get one that's, in alignment with your values and all of that, and make sure that they are because you kind of like they the mentoring is imparting in you who they really are, right?
Yeah.
So you start to gain from them, right? But it's amazing to me how that is truth, but really, it's deeper than that. And what you're saying is something that I am very aware,
Yeah.
that's what we want to do. Imparting them the godly principles that that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, nothing else matters but that.
Yeah,
They
and
know who
that's
their king is.
yeah, absolutely, and that's how me and my husband feel about it. So being able to find a place that lines up with those values was super important.
Yes, yes. So, for me, it was a delight meeting Brianna. It was kind of like I met a pseudo daughter when I saw her. It was like our spirits leaped. That I cannot explain that, but you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And she feels the same way. She
Yeah,
wants
it
to
was
go.
like whoa, and it was so awesome, and just her bubbly self, and her going, oh, I love this place, and all of that, and I understood what she's saying because a lot of people say, I love this place. I don't know why, but I just love being here, and I'm excited. So I know that's a great testimony, and I
Yeah.
thank you for that, and I praise God for that because that's what it is. In fact, this morning in our morning meetings, we were talking about our focus is the family. We want to make sure that the family is intact because
Yeah.
that's the institution that's under attack. You destroy a family, you destroy a community.
Yeah.
And so that's what we want to do. And I was sharing with them that the time is going to come where that's going to be very attractive because as high as divorce rate is, it'll reverse. It'll be
Yeah.
very good to want to be married, very good to want to have a family, very good to be together, right? Because man was not meant to be alone. You to
No.
build a family. So what a great testimony. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So now that you're here, and your kids are here and all of that, what are some of the things that you have seen that has transferred to the home, right? To how they interact with you and dad and each other and others.
So, one of the things that I've really valued is like when you guys started the contest with them, when we went to virtual, you had implemented the chore chart. Now, we've always had a chore chart. Me and my husband have been of the firm belief that you have to have a sense of responsibility and pride in your home. Sometimes it's been more difficult than others to get them to actually adhere to that, especially during the summertime and stuff like that. But with it being incorporated into part of this contest and Brianna being our firstborn, she's very competitive. It's really pushed her to make sure that her chores are done. She's not being asked to do them, where if I'm like, hey, Brianna, the bathroom needs to be done, it's not the, okay, the bathroom, it's like, okay, Mom, I'll get it done, because she knows if she does it with an attitude, then she doesn't get her check mark.
Yeah.
And yeah, and she's been more inclined to help her little sister and build her up, like, oh, okay, Olivia, let's get this part of the room clean to make sure that everything's clean, since she shares a room with her. Just different things like that, incorporating her younger siblings in, which has been good, because I know that being the firstborn can put a lot of pressure on being that example. Yeah. And instead of it being a negative, like having to be an example, it's kind of turned into like this desire to want to lead them, which has been a change that I've seen in her as far as the home and the family's gone. And with different things like her challenges where, and one of the parents have to be involved, like she's been more verbal about wanting one of us to do something. Whereas before she would kind of be like, hey, can I ask you a question? And if we were busy and we said, oh, just wait a minute, she'd let it go and wouldn't come back and say something. Because it wasn't that we were busy and it was like, okay, not now, go away. It was, okay, you got to ask me in a couple minutes because I have to finish this first. But she would kind of just like let it go. Whereas now she knows, okay, I'm just going to wait those couple minutes and come back, and then I can ask because it's okay to wait. Whereas before she just, I guess her confidence is built where she knows her value and her importance more. Where before she didn't really see it that way. She just kind of saw herself as like a silent helper instead of someone who had her place that was important too.
Wow.
Which I feel like that's built her confidence up a lot too.
Oh, yes, yes. She's lining up with her identity.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so powerful. So in the area of does she want to train consistently or not? How do you handle the times that I don't really feel like it? How do you do that as a parent? Where, because it can become hard, and you homeschool, you have all these things at home, right, happening right there, and it can become hard. So how do you as a mom handle that?
So we definitely get busy, and I always have my eyes on the clock because scheduling has always been a thing for me. Most days I know what time my husband gets home. I like for him to come home and not to be chaotic because his day's chaotic out there. So I like to have my eyes on the clock and say, okay, it's 4:30. Let's just straighten up real quick. So when daddy comes home, he doesn't come home and it's crazy in here. So when it's about 5:15, I'm like, all right, Brianna, you have about 15 minutes till leadership. If it's I've gotten with her during the school year, with leadership classes, it was her decision. If she felt she needed to spend more time studying, then it was her decision if she wanted to leave leadership out that day. But I always made it to her, okay, if you don't want to do leadership because you feel that your studies are more important, then I'll accept that. But if you don't want to do it because you're lazy, that's not acceptable to me. We sit down and we talk about why each class that she takes is important. And if she doesn't want to take it, I just kind of do it in a way of asking her why she doesn't want to take it and talking through. And then she'll be like, well, do you think I should take it? And I say, well, I think you should always take it because this is something you're working towards. She said, well, it'll make me tired. But you have to understand that it helps you to build your endurance. So it might make you tired if you're taking 2 classes that night, but then when you take 2 classes the next day, you've built up the endurance a little bit more and you won't be as tired. Wow. So I tried to help her to understand how it will benefit her.
Yes.
So that it never feels like it's a chore. And right. I also told her that I always want it to be something that she's passionate about and that she loves. So if she gets to a point where she doesn't want to do it because it feels like a chore, that it's something we need to sit down and talk about so we can change it. But to her, I think, at least at this point in time, it's become so much a part of her that it's such a thing that she's so proud of that she enjoys doing it. It's on like I know last week we had a day where one of my good friends and her 2 children had come over, and it's Jason's best friend and Olivia's best friend. But there was no one there that was Brianna's age, but Brianna always plays with them and she's always so good with them. And she was like, well, everybody's going to be over. I don't know if I really want to do karate today. And I was like, you know what though? But that's your thing. So you can go and you can have your special time with all of your peers, your age, while they play with their friends. And then when you're all done, then you can have your time to play with them, but you've still had your thing. So I really try to make sure that she understands that it's hers. It's a part of hers, so that it's never something that becomes a burden to her where it's an argument to get her to do it,
Yeah, there are several things that I hear you say there that I'm really excited about. And I think it's important for the world to know, right, how you're doing this. Number one, that's great coaching as a parent. most parents, in my experience, the moment they face a challenge like that, it's like, oh, then she's not interested or he's not interested, so we should stop. You know, there's so much more to that. The
Yeah.
underlying reasons are much more powerful than the surface. And for them to say, I don't want to do it, that's surface. Find out what really is happening. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
I commend you for that, because what a powerful value you're teaching her, that one day she's going to go through that and she won't be able to call you because of whatever timing or need or whatever. And she's going to be able to assess herself and find out what's really going on with herself. And then it's
Yeah.
bringing her to understand priorities and choice making, powerful choice making. Because socializing you can do always, right? But you can't always do your responsibilities.
Yeah.
They are more structured and more timely than socializing. And so you're doing so great. That's awesome. I want every
Thank
parent to be
you.
like that, you know, to understand that concept, to help their child thrive, because giving up is unacceptable.
No.
Dropping responsibilities, unacceptable. Quitting, unacceptable. Finish what you start. You know, I was talking about
Absolutely.
have a finishing spirit. You know, once you're done, you completed your commitment. Now you want to do something else, go. But finish what you start. You're doing something amazing with that, which uh, should translate to everything in life. You know,
Yeah.
going to school and all of that. A lot of times you see a lot of kids growing up, and because they don't have those tools that you're giving your daughter, um, imagine the shock of going
Yeah.
from everything is done for me at home, right? To like now I got to do it myself.
Yeah. And that's a big thing with us, like with me and my husband. We were brought up in a way where we had to work for what we wanted. And we had our responsibilities and they
Yes.
were done first. And if they weren't completed, then we didn't get the other things. Like Saturdays in my house, that was the day the house was ripped apart and cleaned, and my dad was a Marine. So it was done right,
Oh, get it done.
or
No
and it was
questions.
white glove right. And if it wasn't done right, it was done from the beginning. And you didn't go hang out until it was done the right way. And those, when you're little, it sucks. But when you're older, you realize that that's
What a
a
powerful value.
value
Yeah.
that you need to have. So it's something that we feel is really important, and something I'm so glad that my husband grew up in the same way. And it's a value that's really important to him too. So it's not an argument between us. Because I know some of our friends, they were brought up in that way, and their spouse was brought up in the way where they were kind of handed everything because they were an only child. And it's constantly like, oh, just let them do this thing. And it's, to me, you're doing an injustice to your kid, because once they hit the real world, now they have to learn all that stuff on their own, because they're not just going to be handed things.
Yeah. Correct.
So
Correct. Powerful. Man, I'm excited for your kids. They have a bright future, because, you know, it all starts at home, you know,
yeah.
and you guys are doing a great job as parents. I commend you for that, celebrate you. And it's evident in your children, their behavior and their demeanor, the way they show up, you know, it's powerful to see that. So do you have any um, tips, if you will, inspiration for parents who may be struggling with, do I found this sovereign place, do I put them here, and if so, why?
So let's see. I'd say, see, my thing is, when you find a place like Sovereign, and if you're sitting there, should I put them there? If nothing else, you should at least give it a shot and see where it's going to go. Because the one thing that I've seen at Sovereign that I didn't see at any of the other schools, I don't see in the ballet classes my daughter takes, and I haven't seen in the other activities I've done with my other children, is that sense of community. I've talked about it with a couple of my friends, and even I was speaking with my mother about it. Sovereign has gone above and beyond in so many different ways. And it's so touching to me because even like during the quarantine, when you guys had reached out and said, hey, if you're going through something, it doesn't have to be related to karate. It could be school, or it could be karate, or it could just be that you need someone to talk to. Reach out to one of the senseis and we'll talk to you. You know, it's not something that you're getting paid for, or it's not something you're charging extra for. It's just you putting your hearts out there
Amen.
for other people. And to me, that's a value that you don't get and that you don't see other places. So my whole thing to other people I would say, you know, give it a try. And if it doesn't fit you, sometimes it doesn't fit.
Right.
But you're going to see a value that you wouldn't see anywhere else. And you're going to see a change in your child, because it's not just about learning to defend themselves. It's about instilling values and beliefs in them where they value themselves and they see the bigger picture. And to me, that's the more important part. Like my husband could sit there and teach her 1,000 different ways to defend herself. But if she doesn't have the confidence to back herself, those moves mean absolutely nothing.
Very true. Very powerful. That's like for everything in life, you know, starting a business, a career, an interview, showing up, you know, the way you show up is very powerful. It determines the outcome pretty much. So very good for that. Well, we come to the end of our time here, Miss Amber, and what a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you for being such a raving fan, and hope that we continue to impart in your family and give more to your family and overwhelm. We want to overwhelm families with what we do and how we do it, and the families can become stronger and more united, and you know, more serving to each other, so we can have a better world. So that's our focus, and you're right there. You're one of those. So love to have you for more. Thank you for sharing today, and we'll do it again.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right.